There's a cat in my other chair, so I'm sitting at a different spot today. Different rocking chair that we got for baby Ava. This video is going to be another sit down video. They're not all going to be like this, but these first few probably will be, just because I'm trying to recount and remember all of the stuff that's happened in the last few weeks, and I quite honestly just don't have the energy to film pretty things, and sitting down to talk is what I can manage right now. I do have my journal with a few of these things in it. I haven't written a lot of this down yet because it took so much to even write down to the point of getting home. So this video is actually coming before my journaling of it, and I'm hoping that as I talk, it'll help me remember more details. If you haven't watched my full birth story, giving birth at 17 weeks and losing my baby, that is part one of this, I guess, little series that I'm doing here, so please go watch that first. It'll give you a lot of context for this video. When I finished that last video, we had just gotten home from the hospital. My husband had helped me shower, and when I got in the shower, my milk came in, and that is when I ended that video. We had just broken the news to our families and close friends that we lost our baby in a very traumatic way, and we were kind of just left here with just the two of us, without that hope of our daughter's arrival that we were planning for and had in our minds for later this year in November. The last few weeks have been unlike anything else I've ever experienced. After we got home and shared the news with our family and friends, I decided to share the news just with everybody more broadly. We have so many people via the internet that I know were so excited for her as well, and they care about what's going on with us. Everybody was so excited after we announced we were pregnant, and I just felt like I needed to share that with everyone, that we were going through such a big loss. I feel like in that moment I really needed the flood of people saying they're sorry and that they are here for us, and the kind words and thoughts, and just the acknowledgement that she was here and she existed and she meant something to so many people. We also had quite a few friends who either brought us dinner or sent us groceries or sent us money for getting meals, so we didn't have to think about that. We could just focus on being sad and being together and grieving, and not have to worry about like normal life things as much as we would have. We lived long distance, so I know that it's easy to just ask, like, how can we help? And a lot of people didn't ask that. They just sent things, and it was really appreciated, because that's not a question that I still have an answer to, is how can people help? I don't know the answer to that. That's a really hard one. And I guess I want to start getting into the details of things by saying I don't know that I'm going to be able to appropriately convey how all of this feels. And I think that unless you have gone through this, you can't understand it fully, and that's okay. And I would say that if you can't understand it, if you have a hard time understanding this, to like count that as the blessing that it is that you don't understand what this feels like. But I am going to start with something that I know a lot of people can understand, and that is postpartum in general. That is like the physical recovery of postpartum. So I had to do this without a baby to give me hope and to keep me busy, and to bring me joy. And I think that has made it a lot harder. I would say that postpartum, like what I've experienced postpartum, seems completely worth it if I were to have been able to bring a baby home. I gave birth at 17 weeks, and I say gave birth because I physically went through the full process of giving birth. I had contractions and a full labor, had to birth the placenta, and all of the things. It was birth. It wasn't just a miscarriage in my mind, even though that's the technical term for it at that point in pregnancy. I'm still having to deal with my hormones dropping and going all over the place and trying to figure themselves out. My milk came in, like I said, I am 3 weeks out. I am over 3 weeks out from giving birth at this point, and I'm still leaking milk, even though I've done all of the things to try and reduce that and stop it from happening. It's still happening. I had all of the bleeding, the tissue that needed to come out, wearing diapers and pads, and having a hard time walking the first few days after, having to use the peri bottle, doing sitz baths every day because hemorrhoids are a fun thing that you get after you give birth, which I didn't know. And if you watched our last video, I told you that they gave me a crash run in postpartum, and that was really, it was like a 3-minute conversation on what was going to happen, and they obviously did the best they could to inform me of stuff. But experiencing it is a whole different thing than just like getting a bullet list of what's going to happen. I was dealing with low blood pressure earlier on in pregnancy, and it was something we were keeping an eye on. It wasn't a huge concern or anything, but they were worried about me getting lightheaded and just like being in the heat or anything like that, and staying hydrated. And I have come to find out that even now, 3 weeks out, I'm still getting quite lightheaded, going up and down, like from sitting to standing or laying to standing. And I assume that part of that is hormonal, and again, it's not a huge concern. It's just something that I wanted to document and I'm keeping an eye on. So all of the general postpartum things that you get are happening, even though I was not even halfway through the pregnancy technically. And I just wanted, just in case you didn't know, that those things still happen when you miscarry, they do. So aside from the physical recovery of giving birth and the, I guess, emotional trauma that we were just thrown headfirst into with all of this, there have been some very particular moments throughout the last few weeks that I want to touch on. And this isn't chronological. This isn't me recounting every single moment of the last few weeks, because that would take me so long to go through just every moment and trying to process each emotion, because it's like a bombardment of emotions and feelings and all of the things. So I wrote down a list of things that I wanted to note and discuss. Especially the first few days after getting home, I had a really hard time sleeping because I would be extremely exhausted and I would go to sleep or to nap or anything, and I'd be waking up in the middle of the night, just like sitting up out of a dead sleep, hyperventilating, having a full-on panic attack because my brain is replaying the experiences that happened with giving birth to her and just everything that was going down. It was like replaying in my mind, and I'd be waking up with panic attacks because of that. Trying to go to sleep was just my brain repeating her name, just like in different ways. My brain just saying Ava, 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 like over and over again. And it made it really hard to fall asleep, even though I was so tired. And then sometimes on the flip side of that, I would experience waking up gently and not remembering everything I had gone through for the first minute or so. And I would reach down to touch my bump and say good morning like I had previously before she was born, before she was gone. And realizing all over again that she's not here anymore and that everything that happened. That like hitting you all at once is a lot. The next thing was sort of like just right now, I'd be doing anything random and just like bursting into tears for no reason. I mean, I guess there are reasons, good reasons, but being like fine in the moment to just bawling my eyes out. And that's still happening. That's something that's consistently happening a lot of times a day. Something else that was particularly difficult was having to call the birth center that we were originally going to and canceling our appointments, our upcoming appointments, canceling our anatomy scan. I had just reached out to maternity and birth photographers in the couple of weeks before we lost her. And of course, they all ended up getting back to me the week after we lost her. So I had to email them back and say, you know, I wish so badly that I was going to need your services still, but I don't anymore. Maybe in the future. 2 weeks after we lost her was not only Father's Day, but my 30th birthday in that span of a few days. And that was really, really difficult. I had been planning to give Taylor a special gift for his first Father's Day. And having to write that card for him, knowing that he was experiencing his first Father's Day like this, was really difficult too. Giving him a little outfit for her and a frame that was meant to hold her ultrasound and future pictures, and just a couple of other things that were really special. Knowing she wouldn't get to wear that outfit, he wouldn't get to dress her in that or anything. Again, just really, really difficult. My 30th birthday, I feel like that goes without being said. I didn't really get to celebrate that too much. I wasn't really in the mood for celebrating. It was a really hard day for me. The day before was really hard too. I feel like I could say so much on that, but I haven't really fully processed all of that yet, so I'm just gonna continue. We had decided that we were feeling a little stir crazy, just being home and with everything that was reminding us of her here and the sadness and everything. So we wanted to get out of the house. I think it had been almost 2 weeks by then. And we decided to go pick blueberries. And we were on our way to the orchard. We had just left and we got the call that her ashes were ready to pick up. So we turned around, headed the opposite direction, and instead of going to enjoy that day, we had to go pick up her ashes, and they put them in a little urn that Taylor picked out for her. It's a little blue bird. And I'll show that in the next video, because the next video is going to be me talking about how we're memorializing her and keeping her in our life. We got to the cremation place there, and the lady there was already in tears when we walked in. She knew we were coming, and she hugged us both, and she said how sorry she was. And she said, you know, I'm a mom and I can't even imagine. And I don't know what I'm supposed to say to things like that. It's very sweet and kind. And I appreciated how kind she was, but I'm a mom too now, and I can't not imagine. Like, it's the only form of motherhood that I know at this point, which is really devastating. So that was one of the harder days, for sure, of all of this. I think that was one of the hardest things we've had to deal with, was the realization that she was really gone in that moment, like physically. We have her back and she's in our room now, but it was definitely one of the harder moments. Out of all of these very hard moments, that one was really tough. I spent a lot of the first week or so after we got home working on writing the whole story in this journal. I poured my heart into it. I spent a lot of time writing this out. It took me a few days to do. And then I also spent, I think, a full day going through all of my photos since March when we found out about her. Actually, since February even, when we started our fertility meds to try and conceive her for the first time after the whole infertility, trying to conceive struggle we had been going through. So I had photos of sunsets and stuff that just like felt special and felt like signs on those days. All the way through giving birth to her and her little footprints and everything. I compiled all of the photos. It was hundreds of photos. And I got an album. You can see it. It's this yellow album right up there. I haven't put them in there yet because I haven't been able to go through them, but I sent them to get printed and they arrived a few days ago. So at some point in the next little bit, we're gonna have to take an evening and I want to put all of her photos in there and write little notes on the side of them and just try and remember all the happy memories we had of her. I have spent a lot of time with her little hat and blanket that they gave us in the hospital for her photos. They're like the donated ones that they get for stillbirths and miscarriages that people crochet, and they're just like these teeny tiny little hats. And I have been snuggling that thing and bringing it around the house just to like sit it next to me on the couch or whatever, especially before we brought her ashes home, because it was really the only things that were ever hers, like in this physical life. She wore that hat and she used that blanket. And then the last couple of things, I said we were trying to get out of the house to just not go stir crazy and try and just be out in the world again a little bit. So we did end up going back to a blueberry farm, and we went to a local beer garden restaurant to get a drink and some snacks at the food truck to get out of the house and talk. The beer garden was in the evening, and then we went to the blueberry farm the next day. And in both places there were babies there and they were crying. And this is something that I was not prepared for and I didn't know I was going to experience, but both times when I heard the baby cry, I could feel just like, I can't explain it other than like a lightning storm in my chest. And I could feel my milk coming out. I could feel my milk leaking and just like all of the pain that caused. And that really caught me off guard. And I ended up crying in public both of those times because it was just like unexpected. You don't know when a baby's gonna cry in public, and I didn't know that was gonna happen. So yeah, just really caught me off guard. Lastly, as far as like specific moments I wanted to talk about, we had our 2-week follow-up appointment at the OBGYN. That was the day after my birthday. And I was very, very nervous for that appointment just because, I mean, just being back in a clinical setting after everything that we experienced, and then sitting in a waiting room for like a half hour with a bunch of pregnant people that were obviously very happily pregnant, very far along pregnant. That was really difficult. I had to sit there and rank myself on their little survey thing for postpartum depression. They gave us some of the result, which I'm not going to get into the specific details of right now. I will do that in a couple of videos. They gave us a referral to the maternal fetal medicine, which is the high-risk specialists, the high-risk OBGYN, and kind of went over what they assume the diagnosis is for what happened and what they think the MFM is going to say too. Potential things that will happen in future pregnancies if we decide to do that, like the likelihood of this happening again. And again, I'm not going to get into numbers right now, but there's a fairly high chance that this happens again in the future to us because of the diagnosis. I want to note that specifically going into the rest of this video and how I'm feeling about things with it's not nearly as simple as just trying to get pregnant again and hoping for a rainbow baby or whatever. There's a lot more that's gonna have to go into it, and it's not gonna look the same by any means. It's gonna be a lot harder. There's a lot to digest with that, I guess, personally. And again, I will get into that in a future video, a couple videos from now. Okay, moving on to the next category of things that I noticed over the last few weeks, things that surprised me, things that stuck out to me. I said at first that the flood of kind messages and support helped me feel Ava's existence was being acknowledged. And as time went on, as time has gone on, I feel like the more of that I got, the more numb it just made me. I felt like I was starting to look for someone's words to make things feel better. And I eventually realized that no one's words are going to be able to fix anything. So now it just kind of feels like noise. And it makes me a little bit overwhelmed. I still don't regret sharing, but that's just where I'm at right now. I noticed that the most random things reminded me of her once I got home, and I can't even remember what all of them were in the moment. It felt very overwhelming, like how many things in her house reminding me that I'm not pregnant anymore or that I was pregnant. So I'm gonna list a few that I did remember, but it was like it felt like a ridiculous amount of things. Like everywhere I turned, there was something that like hit me in the face, like, oh, you're not pregnant anymore. So I have my little list here. Grabbing clothes to wear and seeing my maternity items, seeing her ultrasounds on the side of our fridge, especially the ones that were from just like 2 days before she was born, where she was perfectly fine, perfectly healthy, happy. Realizing it was okay to have more than one cup of coffee now. Seeing these rocking chairs in our living room that we just got specifically for her. These are supposed to go in the nursery once it's done being remodeled. And putting on lotion after I showered. I got belly butter and bio oil lotion, like specifically for pregnancy, and just like seeing that reminder really just hits you in the face. Those are the ones that I can remember. I know there were a lot more, but my brain is tired. I didn't realize how often I had been feeling her little flutters in my belly. It was still really early, but I had started feeling them at about 15 weeks. Very distinct feeling, like, I knew that's what it was. She was very active. And yeah, I really miss being able to feel her little kicks, her little flutters, and having the phantom version of that, feeling my uterus shrinking and whatnot again, like thinking I'm feeling her, but then remembering that she's not here anymore. I have been feeling really guilty every time I do end up having a moment where I smile or laugh. I instantly be like, my brain says, you're sad right now, you can't do that. Talking about her to anyone, whether it's this camera or to people in person, is really hard, and it makes me feel awful, but also it makes me feel better at the same time. That's really hard to explain. It's very confusing. Something that was really interesting to me was we had this little bird's nest in a hanging basket on our front porch, and it's a Carolina wren nest. We had been watching her for weeks make her nest and lay her eggs and waiting for the babies to hatch. And they had hatched while we were gone over our hospital trip giving birth to Ava. And so we get to sit on the porch and watch this mama and daddy wren feed their babies and take care of them the last 2 weeks. And we also noticed within a couple of days of coming home from the hospital, we had 2 mama turkeys and babies wandering around our property for the first time this year. And then just a few days ago, we saw a mama deer and her little baby nursing out in our orchard. So it's both really healing feeling to see so many little babies thriving on our property, on our farm. But it's also really painful knowing that our baby isn't one of them. I have 2 more. This next one is going to be a little woo-woo for you if you are not one of these kinds of people. But since fall of last year, while we were in the depths of trying to conceive and infertility, and my mental headspace was really, really in not a good spot, I've been seeing repeating numbers, waking up in the middle of the night consistently, and it's 222, 333, or 444. Seeing 1111, just like constant repeated numbers everywhere throughout life. And it happens all of the time. They stopped. I stopped seeing them once she was born. And I don't know what that means. I never really knew what they meant. They just always felt like reassurance, but I've stopped seeing them now. So it's just interesting to note. The last thing that I'm going to say in this section is, especially the first few days after coming home from the hospital, amongst all of the sadness and grief and crying and panic attacks and everything, part of the flashbacks I was having to everything that had gone on, the hospital, labor, giving birth, all of that, part of what I was seeing was remembering how much Taylor, my husband, helped me through all of that, how he was there for every single second. He was holding my hand, reassuring me, and helping me breathe through each contraction, how he said it was the most incredible thing he's ever seen, how she's the most beautiful baby he's ever seen. Remembering seeing him holding her and just how much he adored her, how in love with her he was. Hearing in my mind him saying, I always wanted a little girl. I noticed and just feel like I need to know like how much I felt in love with him. I mean, I always do. He's my best friend in the whole world. But the last few weeks have really made it clear just how much love I have for him and how much I appreciate him, because he's really helped me talk and grieve and cry and breathe, and just he's been here for everything, and I just really appreciate him. So I would say if there's been one positive thing out of all of this, it's that. Moving on to discussing grief specifically. I have spent years at this point building a life around growing things. If you're not here from my other YouTube channel, we have a homestead, we have a farm here, and we bought this place. It was abandoned. We have renovated this whole house together from scratch, built gardens from scratch. We've built an orchard, we've gotten married, we've built an amazing YouTube channel. And I feel like I've had this underlying belief that in everything I do, if you nurture something with enough patience and love and care, that eventually it'll grow. And losing Ava was the first time that that belief ran into something that it couldn't stand up to. And I think that in all of this, that's gonna be a huge reason why I'm going to have a hard time trusting my body again. Before I was pregnant with Ava, I had a hard time trusting it because of dealing with infertility. And then once I found out that she was growing inside of me, I kind of let my guard down there. And I started to trust that maybe it was on my side. I have never felt more like myself than I did when I was pregnant with her. I felt so connected to my body, and I was just in awe that I was creating this perfect little being. Like, my body and I were finally on the same team after years of not being on the same team, fighting each other. And then all of this happened. So in relation to grief, ever since then, I have had these questions going through my brain, and they don't have answers, and I know that they don't have answers. It's just part of what happens when you're dealing with grief, I think. You question things, and as humans, we try to find reasoning and make sense of what's going on in our world. So I have these repeating questions now of why me? Why Ava? Why did she have to die? Why did this happen? Why does it feel like everyone else gets to bring their babies home? Why does it feel like every time I have a dream so big, it ends up with loss, or it turns upside down in some way? Like I said earlier, I've spent years building a life that centers around growing things. In the garden particularly, I have spent years now sowing seeds when I knew I couldn't control the weather. And somehow I never realized that I was living the rest of my life with my personal dreams and goals assuming that those beautiful things are guaranteed, that their outcome is guaranteed if I just try hard enough. And losing Ava changed that. The biggest surprise for me through all of this is not how much I miss her. I expected to have to miss her when I realized that this was all going to happen the way it was. The biggest surprise is realizing how much losing her has changed how I look at the future. Before this happened, I guess naively assumed that seeing a positive pregnancy test would mean that I got to bring home a baby. I thought that since we were in the second trimester with 0.5% chance of miscarriage, that we were safe. I thought that there was certainty in loving and caring for something enough that it would grow and it would keep growing, and I would get to harvest the reward from that. And this experience has shattered my belief in any of those things going forward. So I want to end this with what I'm currently learning, what I feel like I'm learning through all of this, because obviously I'm still in the midst of learning all of it. This is so fresh and so raw at this point, all of these feelings. I'm learning that while I can make choices to guide what life will look like, I don't know how our story ends. I can't know what the future holds. I don't know if it still holds the hope of growing our family. And I think overall what I'm learning is that this isn't something that you ever fully heal from. Healing is a lifelong process. It's not a situation where you move on. You just move forward. You move forward holding the weight of all of this and hoping that that weight lessens over time. I have to live every day the rest of my life holding not only my love for her and the excitement that I had for her and the dreams I had for her, but also my grief and my questions, my pain, my memories of her. And someday, once I'm ready, maybe holding hope for what comes next. That's everything that I wanted to talk about today. I'm sure I missed some things, but I was having a hard time recounting all of this the last few weeks. There's just been so much that's happened. It's hard to remember every single detail. In the next video, we're going to talk about how we plan to memorialize Ava, how we plan to keep her growing in our life as time goes on, even though she's not physically here anymore. I want to show you the special things that people have sent us, the special things that we've done or that we plan to do for her. And then in another video after that, I plan to go into the full details of our high-risk specialist appointment that we have coming up in a few weeks. Just what the future of all of that looks like for us. If you made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you listening to my story, my daughter's story, and I hope it made you feel not so alone. I hope it brought you some comfort. I hope it brought you some realizations if you are somebody who is helping someone go through a loss like this. But anyways, we'll see you in the next one. Bye.